Chapter 1. The Betrayal of the Guardians. The plains thundered with howls. Dust rose in violent spirals as Velak stood tall, chest burning from the silver sting of Jonas's shot. His red eyes glowed hotter, rage twisting his monstrous snarl. The Guardians formed a half circle before him. Only 3 remained, or so Jonas thought. 2 braced for battle, their claws glinting in the moonlight, primal essence humming in their veins. The third, smaller, crouched apart, its glowing silver eyes half closed as though in trance. It neither moved nor howled, it simply watched. Jonas spat his cigar into the dirt, reloaded his elephant gun, and grinned. "Finally, let's dance!" The first Guardian lunged, primal fire swirling around its claws. Velak swatted it aside with contemptuous ease. It rolled across the ground, rose, and came again, only to be torn open at the chest by a single strike. Blood stained the dust. The second leapt high, primal wind whipping around its form. For a heartbeat, it looked as though it might land true, but Velak caught it, mid-air, his claws clamping down with a sickening crack. He hurled the Guardian's limp body aside like broken prey. The third Guardian did not move. Its eyes glowed brighter, silver light pulsing faintly from its chest, as if it fed on what was unfolding. Jonas narrowed his eyes. "What the hell are you?" But Velak's roar cut him off. The failed alpha turned, his gaze locking on Jonas. Jonas raised the elephant gun, fired. The shot slammed into Velak's shoulder, staggering him but not stopping him. The beast charged, claws carving furrows in the earth. Jonas rolled, drew his sawed-off shotgun, and fired both barrels into its chest. Silver burned, smoke curled. Velak howled, then kept coming. From the shadows, Eldridge moved his hands like a puppeteer. Dark tendrils of shadow coiled around Velak's arms, slowing his strike, turning claws by inches. Jonas moved with the rhythm, dodging, striking, firing again. The duel became a dance. The mind of man against the fury of a god's mistake. Even shadows cannot hold forever. Velak broke free with a roar. His claw connected at last. A sweeping blow across Jonas's chest. The hunter was lifted from his feet, his body crashing into the dirt with bone-rattling force. His elephant gun spun out of reach. Eldridge's eyes widened. Shadows rushed to cloak Jonas's body as Velak loomed overhead. But the vampire was too far. Jonas lay still, breath shallow, his body broken. For the first time, silence fell over the plains. The third Guardian, the one who had sat apart, unmoving, opened its eyes fully. The silver glow within them was strange, cold, watching. The battle was not yet over. It had only just begun. Chapter 2. The warrior forged. The memory returned like fire through the ages. Tahu, the young warrior of the plains, stood on the cliffs as the moon glowed silver above. His chest was painted with ochre, his knife in hand, his eyes burning with the will to never bow. He had leapt into the jaws of the beasts that stalked his people. The lichens had surrounded him. 5, their eyes burning silver. They struck, claws rending his flesh. His chest tore open, his blood painted the dirt. Yet Tahu did not fall to his knees. He rose swaying, knife still in hand. His voice was hoarse, but it carried. "I will not be prey. I will not be slave. If I must die, I die on my feet." The largest lichen lunged for the kill, but the ground shook. Above them, the sky split with light. A voice filled the plains, vast and terrible. "Listen. Bravery is the marrow of the Alpha. Compassion is the heart. But you, Tahu, are neither Alpha nor prey. You are something else. You are my blade." The wounds across Tahu's chest began to glow, the torn flesh knitting together, his bones cracked, reshaping, his skin tearing and healing all at once. His eyes blazed with silver fire as fur burst from his arms. His scream became a howl. The lichens fell back, their heads bowed. for they knew this was not one of them, not bound as they were. This was chosen. Where Tahu, the man, had stood, now rose the warrior Lycan, larger than the rest, his body honed with the strength of the wolf and the will of a man who refused to break. His ears stood sharp to the sky, his lupine snout curled with a snarl, but his eyes still burned with the fire of the warrior who had chosen death before surrender. He stood among the pack, not their alpha, not their equal, but their eternal protector. Lysanor's voice rolled once more through the night. When the seal breaks, when the failed alpha rises, you will be there, not as guardian, but as my hand, my warrior. The howl of Tahu, no longer man, not fully beast, rose into the sky, carrying across the plains, echoing through centuries. And so it was that there were not 5 guardians, but 6, the last hidden, forgotten in time, until the day his purpose would come. Chapter 3. The warrior revealed. The smaller Lycan stood apart, its silver eyes closed, its body trembling as though some deep current surged within. Then slowly it began to rise. The glow in its chest pulsed, spreading across its veins like fire through roots. Its frame swelled, muscle tightening, fur bristling. The trembling form grew taller, broader, until it stood eye to eye with Valak himself. What had seemed a lesser wolf now loomed as his equal, radiant with Lysanor's power. The earth shivered, dust rose. The guardians bowed low, for they knew the truth. This was no ordinary beast. This was the warrior. Valak's red eyes narrowed, his lips peeled back, a snarl splitting into a roar. It was not fear in his gaze, but fury. The rage of a creature denied its throne once again. With a thunderous howl, he turned from Jonas, turned from Eldridge, and hurled himself at the warrior. The two collided, claw to claw, fang to fang. The sound was not battle, it was earthquake. The ground split beneath their feet, waves of dust exploding outward. Jonas stirred where he had fallen. His chest ached, his breath ragged, but his eyes opened to the sight of monsters waging war. He coughed, spat blood, and forced himself upright. Jesus Christ, he muttered, half in awe, half in thrill. What the hell is that? Beside him, Eldridge leaned against the wall, his body wan, shadows dripping from his fingertips like blood. His eyes were sunken, but still sharp. He whispered, voice hoarse, "Not what? Who? That is the boy. Tahu. Lysanor made him more than man, more than beast. The warrior Lycan." Jonas blinked, smirk tugging at his bruised jaw. The kid, huh? Knew there was something in him. Always could tell. The battle raged on. Valak struck with claws like spears, blows that could level trees. Tahu met each strike with equal force, his body glowing with silver fire. The failed alpha's rage howled across the plains. The warrior's defiance answered with earth-shaking roars. Eldridge slumped, his shadows faltering. He had spent himself, cloaking Jonas. And now, what strength remained, he funneled into the warrior. His hand shook, every whisper of darkness, guiding Tahu's movements, tilting the fight by inches. Jonas, slowly recovering, sat upright, watching as the titans tore at one another. His hand brushed the elephant gun lying in the dirt beside him, but for once he didn't reach for it. For once, even Jonas Creed knew this fight was beyond his trigger finger. Hours bled into the night. Dust clouds rose like storms. The mountain groaned as if remembering its prisoner. And still, the warrior and the failed alpha struck, fell, and rose again. When at last the dust settled, both stood, heaving, claws dripping, eyes burning. The fight was not over. It had only just begun. Chapter 4. Even again, the ground split as the warrior Lycan and Velak charged once more. Their roars tore through the plains like clashing storms, claws and teeth meeting in a violent thunder. Dust clouds spiraled skyward as the two titans struck, the sound of flesh and bone echoing like war drums. Jonas steadied himself against a broken wall, his elephant gun in hand. He could see it now. Tahu was faltering, his movements slower, his breathing heavy, his once radiant silver aura flickering like a dying flame. He spat into the dirt and growled toward the shadows. "Eldridge, aid him. That thing's too strong." In the corner, Eldridge leaned heavily on the wall, shadows slipping from his fingertips like leaking in blood. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. He shook his head slowly. "I am done. My energy is almost gone." Jonas turned to him, eyes narrowing. "You old bastard." Then, without hesitation, Jonas pulled his collar down, exposing his neck. "Okay, take it." A thin smile curled across Eldridge's cracked lips. His fangs extended, gleaming faintly in the moonlight. "You should be careful what you offer." He struck. The bite was sharp, precise. Jonas clenched his teeth, refusing to cry out. His fists balled, the world spinning as the ancient vampire drank. "Not too much," Jonas growled through clenched teeth. "We're even, just even." Eldridge released him, wiping his mouth, his eyes bright once more. His voice was dry, almost amused. "Even again. I don't know how many times you expect me to save you, Jonas, and still call it even." Jonas staggered but smirked, jamming a shell into the elephant gun. "As many times as it takes." In the distance, the battle raged. Eldridge, now slightly rejuvenated, lifted his arms once more. Shadows surged across the dust, weaving around Tahu, lending him strength, slowing Velak's claws by inches. Jonas raised the elephant gun and fired. The silvered shot slammed into Velak's side, sparks flaring. But the beast barely staggered. His rage only deepened. With a roar, Velak unleashed a storm of blows. Each strike landed heavier than the last, claws rending fur and flesh. Tahu stumbled, struck again and again, his body unable to keep pace with the endless storm. The warrior Lycan faltered. His silver aura dimmed. His claws sank into the dirt. His chest heaved, and then Velak's claw tore across him. In one final, brutal strike, Tahu collapsed. His massive Lycan form trembled, shrank, and faded. Fur receded, muscle shrank. In the dust lay only a man, young, scarred, bloodied, his chest rising shallowly. Tahu. The warrior was gone. Velak turned, his burning red eyes locking on Jonas and Eldridge. Dust swirled around him, his breath a furnace of rage. Jonas lifted his gun, spat blood, and chuckled grimly. "Oh, crap." He cracked the gun open, sliding another shell inside. His grin widened. "Oh well, I've got to go out. Might as well be to the toughest son of a bitch there is." Velak lowered his head and howled, the sound shaking the very bones of the earth. The plains waited. Chapter 5. The Voice of the Sky. The earth shuddered beneath their feet. Velak lowered his head, his burning red eyes blazing brighter than the moon itself. His massive chest heaved, his claws gleamed with blood and shadow, and with a roar that shook the heavens, he launched forward like a storm given flesh. Jonas Creed stood in the middle of the open plains, black leather jacket torn at the shoulder, cigar ash still glowing faintly. He raised the elephant gun and fired. The silvered shell burst with thunder, but when it struck, the beast barely flinched. Velak barreled on, unstoppable, each stride like a hammer against the earth. Jonas glanced at Eldridge, who staggered in the shadows, his gaunt face pale and drained. The vampire's hands twitched weakly, shadows slipping like smoke between his fingers, powerless against the monster's fury. Jonas growled, "This is it, old friend. Just go. Disappear into your shadows. I'll hold him off as long as I can. At least one of us will get out of this alive." Eldridge gave a weary smile, black eyes glinting. "And give you all the glory? I'd never hear the end of it." They stood together, shoulder to shoulder on the open plain, two relics facing something neither could defeat. The ground quaked as Velak closed the distance. His roar tore through the night, a sound of hatred without end. And then the world slowed. The beast's charge faltered, his massive form dragging as though caught in invisible threads of time. The dust in the air froze mid-swell. Clouds above stopped their restless drifting, and even the wolves' howls died on their lips. The plains held their breath. From the heavens came a voice, vast and ancient, rolling like thunder. "I am Lysanor. You cannot defeat my child, yet I will not destroy him. He is mine, my kin." Eldridge raised his hollow eyes to the frozen sky. "Then what do you want of us? God of lichens, I possess nothing that can end this. Your beasts are beyond me. Even my shadow bends before them." The voice came again, echoing through stone and sky alike. "You misunderstand me, Elder. I did not say you could defeat him. I said you have the power to aid me. There is one who can face the failed Alpha, one who is hidden from time itself. In a house far from this place lives the line of those chosen. Seek the family called Graham. In their cellar lies one set apart. Bring him to me." Eldridge's lips curled in defiance. "I will go nowhere near an Alpha, nowhere near your champion. Tear me apart instead. Perhaps I would welcome it." The voice shook the mountains, yet carried no wrath, only command. "I will bind Velak as I did before, for but a moment, yet his prison is broken and time is short. Aid me to set right what was undone, or face him alone." Jonas spat, lifted his chin at Eldridge. "Do it." The vampire's sunken eyes studied his friend, and for the first time in centuries, something like humanity flickered there. "Where is this damn place? I have not walked those shadows." Jonas's mouth twisted in a bloody grin. "Then you'll just have to trust your god." Eldridge sighed, shook his head, then drew the shadows around him like a cloak. They swallowed his form, spiraling into a black vortex. His voice echoed once more as the last of him slipped away. "Very well, even again." The portal snapped shut. The world trembled, and Velak's roar began to move once more. Chapter 6. The Alpha Prime. The world bent to shadow. Eldridge slipped between folds of darkness, drawn by a thought not his own. Lysanor had planted it within him, a destination, an unyielding truth. The Graham family, a name carried like a curse across time. The shadows peeled back, and Eldridge stepped from the void. Boots sinking into dry leaves. Before him stood an isolated farmhouse, its timbers old but standing proud against the wind. The plain stretched empty all around, yet from within the house, low voices whispered in ancient tongues, chanting. The vampire froze, his sunken eyes narrowing. The air itself vibrated with a primal force. He looked up, as if searching for an answer from a god he did not serve. "Please," he muttered, voice dry as ash. "Don't kill me." He dissolved into shadow once more, reappearing within the cellar. It was cold, damp, and reeked of iron and dust. Yet in the corner, crouched within the darkness, was a form too vast to be hidden, a beast on two legs, towering even in stillness. Its eyes glowed with burning restraint, golden fire trapped in a cage. Dimitri, the Alpha Prime. His gaze fixed on Eldridge, unblinking. He did not move, but power radiated from him like heat from a furnace. Lysanor's binding chains, invisible but absolute, held him in silence. Eldridge's throat tightened. His hands trembled despite centuries of control. This is not my day. Step by step, he drew nearer, each pace slower than the last. He extended one hand, pale and shaken, toward the unmoving giant. To carry him through shadow, he needed to touch him, his palm pressed against fur that felt like stone. For a breathless moment, Eldridge thought the beast would strike, but Dimitri did not move. The binding held, and then the shadows roared open. Back on the plains, Velak stirred. His roar returned, shaking the heavens. He took a step toward Jonas, then another, then stopped. Slowly, as if an unseen command had seized him, he sank to one knee, his red eyes blazing not with rage but reverence. The ground cracked as a shadow portal spiraled open, vast and thunderous. The dust of the plains whipped into a storm as something massive began to emerge. First a claw, black and immense, then a leg, heavy enough to shake the earth. And then, stepping fully into the moonlight, Dimitri, the Alpha Prime. His fur gleamed with an ancient sheen, his body a perfect storm of wolf and man, eyes burning gold like the dawn of creation. He did not snarl, he did not roar, he simply arrived. Jonas Creed lowered his gun, eyes wide. Eldridge staggered from the portal, pale as death. And the plains knew the final reckoning had come. End Part 5. Part 6. The final conflict. Coming soon.